Tonight, the Department of Justice secured an indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, and it happened just days after President Trump publicly pushed his Attorney General to go after him. Comey responded in an Instagram video earlier tonight, and one thing that was noteworthy is that he didn't seem surprised. And to be clear, Comey has been a target of Donald Trump for years. Just listen to what he told my colleague Nicole Wallace in May.
It's not my first rodeo. I would hate something like this, or the audit, or all the investigations, to happen to someone who doesn't have my experience, because I look at it and I think there's another one of those. But when it's one of the real problems we have in this country right now is the use of the president's power aiming at individuals who don't have my background or experience, like a Chris Krebs or any others that have been targeted, law firms being targeted. This is a real problem that people should not look past. My thing, to me, and I hope to everybody else, is just a distraction that goes away in a weekend, but there's something much more important going on here. The use of power to aim at individuals eroding the rule of law.
I want to bring in Reed Galen. He's a man with two amazing first names, if you ask me, and he's worked on a number of Republican campaigns. He's now president of JoinTheUnion.us and host of the Homefront podcast. Reed, for folks that just didn't see all of former FBI Director James Comey's statement, he said, we will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. He says, somebody I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right, but I am not afraid, and I hope you are not either. In our last segment, I talked with Michael Chanel about the reactions from Capitol Hill, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I am just struck by the fact that we all saw, everyone collectively, we saw the president say, hey, Pam, indict these people. What are you dragging your feet for? We know the former U.S. attorney in the Eastern District would not bring the charges, would not seek the indictment because he did not believe there was any there. And Donald Trump, he resigned rather than do the work. Donald Trump put somebody else in there that didn't seem to have the same concerns. And now this indictment has come. I'm not surprised about the president, but I am still surprised about everyone else. What about you?
Unfortunately, Simone, I am not surprised by much of anything. If anything, I am, I feel like they got a really fast start. They sort of slowed down, and now in the last few weeks, they've really picked up steam again. And so I'm not surprised by this. We saw that they raided Bolton's house just a few weeks ago. Now they've got Comey, as Comey mentioned, Chris Krebs, Miles Taylor, people that they have been targeting for a long, long time. There are going to be more of them. This is now part of it, where they're trying to clean out the people they don't like to scare everybody else. And as somebody said, as you mentioned, this is exactly part of the process. And let me just talk about the process too. That is part of the punishment. Now, Comey is a longtime law enforcement officer, a longtime lawyer. For a lot of people, this is going to put them into significant amounts of debt in legal bills. There are some incredible attorneys out there trying to protect folks that do this stuff. But, now you've been before, your case has been before a grand jury. You've got to have a lawyer, a litigator, right? Litigators are very, very expensive, especially, I assume, in a federal criminal trial. And now you've got to go before a judge. You've got to be arraigned, all those other things. I hope that the judge in this case, whoever draws the case, will dismiss these charges if they believe them to be egregious. But I think we should see that Comey as the top of the pyramid, certainly not the bottom.
This case has been assigned to Judge Michael Nachmanoff, according to the docket. And to your point about lawyers, former U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald has applied to join the Comey defense team. He is the former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. I guess to your point, it really does feel like then that we have like a Friday night level massacre every other week in the second Trump administration. The Friday night massacre obviously is a nod to Nixon saying he will fire the head of the Department of Justice and the FBI director, just the mere threat, and then attempting to doing so. And that triggered some guardrails that activated from his own party at the time. Do you worry that now people will just become desensitized to the president's pressure campaign on the Justice Department because, to the point you made, it is happening so frequently?
I think so. Look, there are no Howard Bakers from Tennessee in this Republican conference in the U.S. Senate, or certainly in the U.S. House. And there's not going to be. They're all going to be keeping their heads down. This is what they've done really since he came down the escalator, and certainly since he was elected the first time. What did he say? Did you see what he tweeted? I haven't seen what he tweeted. What did he do? I haven't heard what he did. And this is, they just play dumb and they play stupid, and they're hoping. And unfortunately, Simone, I think you're right that a lot of people aren't paying attention. Who's James Comey? Why does this matter? What did he do? And so from the point at which an indictment occurs until it finally gets to an individual American voter or an individual American citizen, right, it gets so distorted based on who you're watching, what you're watching, who you're listening to, that a lot of people get confused. And I think also one of the downstream effects of this to individual Americans is, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I want to keep my mouth shut. I want to keep my ears shut. I want to keep my eyes shut. I don't want to have anything to do with this, not because I'm afraid, but because, you know what, why take the chance, right? As I've said before, what is the prime directive in humanity? Self-preservation. And that's what we're going to see from a lot of people, not only rank and file Americans, but also a lot of other people who might have otherwise stood up saying, do I really want this trouble? Maybe we can wait him out. We know that waiting people out has not worked throughout history. It certainly hasn't worked for Trump. And so I think that we are likely to see a lot of people. We've already seen it with the media in the last couple of weeks and even the last few months. So we should not be surprised by any of this. And I think there's going to be, unfortunately, more people who decide, you know what, discretion is the better part of valor, even if now is the time we need to stand up and proclaim that we have First Amendment rights, we have constitutional rights. And this is a guy, a president, and all the meth-addled lizards around him who clearly don't care about any of that.